So one area I know that you're looking at are the chips, and we're going to show just the move when it comes to chip. A pretty dramatic move from the April lows, up about 45% or so since then. Is that a sustainable trend in your mind? Do you think the chips not only sustain that growth, but really continue to lead the markets?
Yeah, it's amazing, really, Frank, when you see the bounce we've had since April. I do think that semis will continue to lead the market higher, and I think that rally is sustainable, particularly the note you just read as it relates to Saudi Arabia. That is a big deal for NVIDIA, AMD, and really a shift in Washington policy to allow these companies. Previously they had to have special U.S. licenses to sell to the Middle East. So I believe that the administration will continue to use companies like NVIDIA and semis as a negotiating, a bargaining chip, because all of these countries want access. And semis, again, if you're in a secular bull market, the leadership has to remain intact. So I believe that tech will continue to rally and semis still have more room to go.
Frank, well, NVIDIA hitting $3 trillion in market cap again yesterday on news of a big partnership with Saudi Arabia to build these massive data centers and, of course, help train hundreds of developers in the country. The focus now turns to the rest of the Middle East. My source tells me to expect another AI deal with the United Arab Emirates this week. The Trump administration is definitely clearing a path for Saudi Arabia and the UAE to pursue their AI ambitions. And so that's how Saudi Arabia secured some of NVIDIA's most advanced chips, a technology that was previously restricted in the region. And this is a significant policy change from Washington. Until now, or until yesterday, companies like NVIDIA, AMD needed licenses or special U.S. licenses to export advanced semiconductors to many Middle Eastern countries like the Arab Emirates or Saudi Arabia over concerns of their close relationships with China. And if anything, that the chips would eventually end there as a backdoor. But it wasn't just AMD. There was a who's to who, AMD, NVIDIA, of CEOs. They got the green light from the U.S. government. AWS also, Cisco, Qualcomm, all announcing technology partnerships with Saudi Arabia. The fact that Saudi Arabia plans to get hundreds of thousands of chips, about 18,000 of NVIDIA's top AI chips within the next 5 years, should really strengthen NVIDIA's fiscal 2027 earnings and beyond, and potentially alleviate investor concerns about moderating U.S. cloud spend and loss of market share in China due to export controls. But in other words, the Middle East could fill the gaps so that NVIDIA can maintain its growth momentum in the years to come. And I say the gaps because you have the doors closing in China and the doors opening in the Middle East for a lot of these tech companies.
How are you viewing the tech trade right now, specifically chips? We've seen chips move about 45% from their low back in April. Do you believe that's sustainable? And is it also sustainable for chips to maintain leadership?
I do think they will maintain leadership, but I would add the volatility word to it. You've seen NVIDIA now at 130, Qualcomm's come back, Broadcom, a lot of these that were taken for dead are now coming back again. But you'll see some give and take depending especially on how the tariffs are and really what the demand is. I mean, what we're going to end up doing, Frank, is once we get through this and you get some type of stabilization in terms of tariffs, earnings are going to matter, cash flows are going to matter, and really what products all these companies have. So I think as the haze lifts, you really have to go back to fundamentals. And companies like NVIDIA and Qualcomm, two of our other companies that we own, we really like the fundamentals long term because they do have the IP that we think can provide earnings growth in the future.
The AI trade is back. It's as if nothing ever happened.
Oh, God, you see people starting to talk about DeepSeek again? The bears are the bears are like Jellystone National Park. Hey, boo-boo.
Go to some picnic baskets.
Yes, exactly.
So you don't think the Riyadh investment show
well, I just think that,
is worthy of some?
Well, I think that you have to be in Computex. I think Computex is next week, and that's going to be very good. That's keynote for Jensen Huang. I'm just saying when you come in, and like I'm watching Frank, he's on 5 o'clock.
Yes.
And, I'm sitting there watching. It's like, oh, well, there it goes. NVIDIA's up 2. It's up 2. I love NVIDIA, but that's not what should happen. AMD, interestingly enough, that was some good contracts. But I just think that the same thing over and over tends to become the catch-up day. And this is the day that people just say, you know what? Look at that NVIDIA. I got to get in that. And
it's up 50% from the April low.
That's why I brought the catch-up. I should have bought Hunt's.
Oh, yeah, nobody eats Hunt's ketchup.
No?
Only Hunt's.
You ConAgra,
brought
man?
the good one.
You're ConAgra? Huh?
Yeah, I am. I like my high fructose corn syrup pure.
There you go.
But to Carl's point on NVIDIA and in Tesla, the move in Tesla in the last couple of weeks, obviously Palantir never goes away. It's the memification of
Palantir's going to 200. I told him it was at 50. I said it goes to 100.
Carp with the president
100 goes
there,
to 200.
But you're kind of fighting.
Even though international
You're living in the world of fundamentals, perhaps, and kind of the world that you've known a lot about for the last 40,
it's
50
such a
years.
bummer.
And there's some 27-year-old trading for some pod out there who's like, yeah.
No,
Alex Karp's
he's doing
Alex Karp looks great.
He's been on.
He's got great hair, and I love it. And I'm going to buy more Palantir.
All right, I hope you're all doing great today. I want to quickly cover some of the NVIDIA news over the last 48 hours and then talk about what's next for NVIDIA after that. NVIDIA will be selling an 18,000 GPU supercomputer to Saudi Arabia in the first phase of sales to the country's Humane, and NVIDIA will sell several hundreds of thousands of GPUs to the country over the next 5 years. I'll talk more about that in a moment. Google CIO said that they will build data centers in Saudi Arabia and they will bring GPUs. Elon Musk is thinking about the fastest way to bring a terawatt of compute online. That would involve a massive amount of hardware from NVIDIA. And multiple reports suggest that the administration is considering allowing the UAE to import hundreds of thousands of the latest AI chips each year from now to 2027. I want to quickly circle back to the deal with Saudi Arabia purchasing 18,000 GPUs from NVIDIA because it is very significant. The chips that NVIDIA will be exporting to Saudi Arabia's Humane are the GB300 Blackwell Ultra GPUs. This is important because these are NVIDIA's latest high-end chips. Think about this for a second. The administration is allowing NVIDIA to sell large quantities of their newest high-end chips to countries in the Middle East, and that is a very positive sign for NVIDIA. It sounds like the administration wants American tech, including NVIDIA's high-end systems, to diffuse throughout the world. This marks a major shift in the administration's stance toward AI diffusion, and it bodes extremely well for NVIDIA being allowed to export its products around the world. Looking ahead, we have a keynote from Jensen Huang at Computex in Taiwan. For those of us in the US, that keynote is on the night of May 18th. And then we have NVIDIA earnings after that on May 28th. The only short-term headwind I can think of for NVIDIA is the expected semiconductor tariffs that will likely be announced at some point over the next month or so. So be prepared for that when that news breaks. Overall, I am very optimistic about the future of NVIDIA. Demand for AI, and therefore demand for NVIDIA's products, is extremely strong based on what we heard from all of the hyperscalers on their earnings calls, as well as what we've heard from other companies like OpenAI, xAI, Perplexity, and others that are all seeing record-setting levels of AI demand. NVIDIA's competitive moat remains intact as they maintain their ecosystem across both hardware and software. And NVIDIA is still promising a 40x in AI factory revenue when customers upgrade from Hopper to Blackwell equipped with NVIDIA Dynamo. And what company on earth would pass up on a 40x in revenues? Additionally, Blackwell production appears to be ramping very quickly based on what we saw in TSMC's April revenue report, where they reported a 22.2% increase in revenue over the previous month. And yes, some of that may have been due to pull forward to try and avoid tariffs, but it could also be due to NVIDIA helping to expedite the manufacturing of Blackwell, as they said they would do on their last earnings call. And on top of all of this, Blackwell Ultra should be rolling out soon as it is set to launch this year. And Jensen told us previously that the transition from Blackwell to Blackwell Ultra will be much easier than the transition from Hopper to Blackwell. That is very good news because it means we are less likely to see delays in the rollout of Blackwell Ultra like we did during the rollout of Blackwell. And so, all things being considered, I am very optimistic about the long-term future of NVIDIA, and I genuinely think that this company's best days are ahead. At least that's my view of the situation. There may be another NVIDIA video posted later today, so be on the lookout for that. Remember to stay calm in this market. Remember to maintain a long-term perspective, and do not make any hasty or irrational decisions. With all of that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of the day, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts about NVIDIA in the comments below. Please leave a like on this video so more people will see it. And while you're down there, please consider subscribing. It's free, and you can always change your mind. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.